There was a kind of sigh on the platform, as if everyone knew what was coming. Jack's voice went up, tremulous yet determined, pushing against the uncooperative silence. "He's like Piggy. He says things like Piggy. He isn't a proper chief." Jack clutched the conch to him. "He's a coward himself." For a moment he paused and then went on. "On top, when Roger and me went on, he stayed back. I went too. After." The two boys glared at each other through screens of hair. "I went on too," said Ralph, "and then I ran away. So did you." "Call me a coward, then." Jack turned to the hunters. "He's not a hunter. He'd never have got us meat. He isn't a prefect, and we don't know anything about him. He just gives orders and expects people to obey for nothing. All this talk." "All this talk," shouted Ralph. "Talk, talk. Who wanted it? Who called the meeting?" Jack turned, red in the face. His chin sunk back. He glowered up under his eyebrows. "All right, then," he said in tones of deep meaning and menace. "All right." He held the conch against his chest with one hand and stabbed the air with his index finger. "Who thinks Ralph oughtn't to be chief?" He looked expectantly at the boys ranged around, who had frozen. Under the palms there was deadly silence. "Hands up," said Jack strongly. "Whoever wants Ralph not to be chief." The silence continued, breathless and heavy and full of shame. Slowly the red drained from Jack's cheeks, then came back with a painful rush. He licked his lips and turned his head at an angle, so that his gaze avoided the embarrassment of linking with another's eye. "How many think—" His voice trailed off. The hands that held the conch shook. He cleared his throat and spoke loudly. "All right, then." He laid the conch with great care in the grass at his feet. The humiliating tears were running from the corner of each eye. "I am not going to play any longer, not with you." Most of the boys were looking down now, at the grass or their feet. Jack cleared his throat again. "I'm not going to be a part of Ralph's lot." He looked along the right-hand logs, numbering the hunters that that had been a choir. "I'm going off by myself. He can get his own meat. Anyone who wants to hunt when I do can come too." He blundered out of the triangle towards the drop to the white sand. "Jack!" Jack turned and looked back at Ralph. For a moment he paused and then cried out, high-pitched, enraged, "No!" He leapt down from the platform and ran along the beach, paying no heed to the steady fall of his tears, and until he dived into the forest Ralph watched him.